Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're going to be working on saving seed from a few of the things that we grew this year in the garden. So a few things from the cut flower garden, a few things from our raised beds, which are right behind me right here. I want to show you what the seed pods look like, what the seeds look like, and here is a list of the things that I have set up in the studio already. Hopefully I won't miss anything. We've got poppies, foxgloves, snapdragons, nigella, larkspur, dill and carrots, whitefinch, orlaya. I think those are all the things I have gathered at this point. So that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. It does take a little while. It doesn't take a whole lot of setup. You just want to make sure you have clean envelopes or jars or whatever to save your seeds in, a way to label them, and then of course the seed heads or seed pods. Before we move into the studio, I want to touch on cross-pollination just briefly because that is important when you're seed gathering, to know what kind of varieties you have and whether or not you will be guaranteed to get the same thing if you gather that seed and plant it the next year. So there are hybrid plants. Hybrids have been bred to retain specific traits from other different varieties to create this new variety. So if you gather seeds from a hybrid and then plant them, you may not actually get that hybrid, that specific variety of hybrid again. You might get one of the parent plants as a result. You might get some weird mix. You're just not guaranteed from year to year to get that. You want to look for open pollinated varieties. If that is what you want to do, is gather seeds and then have that same variety from year to year. So open pollinated is the term you want to look for. That means you plant an open pollinated carrot and that's the only type of carrot you have growing out there. You can gather the seeds and then you know the next year, which is what I'm going to do today. The next year I can plant my carrot seeds and I know I'm going to get the same type of carrot. However, if you have two different types of open pollinated seed within the same category planted close to each other, they can cross with one another and you might get some random version of what you grew the previous year. So just keep that in mind. Like when I planted my Nigella, I think I have 3 varieties I'm gathering from. They all were in the same row. I'm not even sure. I'd have to Google whether or not they're hybrids or open pollinated. Either way, I know when I gather from these, I'm probably not, I might get a few of the same variety, but I know I'm going to get like kind of a mixed bag of results, and that's okay with me. I just want to grow flowers that are pretty, and I'm not growing for a specific event that needs to be a certain color or what have you. So just keep that in mind. In our cut flower garden, there are a few things that I like to know when they come up. I'm going to see what that flower is. It usually matters if I am trying something new out. If there's like a new dahlia variety or what have you, I want to plant that and know I'm going to be able to see that dahlia variety. But for the most part, for those things that I want to try out, I just purchase the new seeds, and then the rest of the stuff I gather and we'll see what happens. We're in the studio now and I've got all of my things kind of strung out a little bit, so we will go plant by plant and I'll show you close up. But something you do need is a way to label your seeds, so markers or tags, and then either, like I like these jars, they seal up nice. They're easy to open and close though, because they already have some foxglove seeds in there, or envelopes, which I have right here. So these are really good for seeds you don't have as many of, right there. Just a dry way to store your seeds, basically. And then something that I find very helpful is having just a stack of computer paper, or just a few sheets anyway. These are snapdragons here, and this is the first one we'll start with, I guess. It makes the most sense. I kind of shook one of these stalks over this area. Oh, look at that. I'm releasing some bugs here. But see how you can see the seeds way easier on this paper versus on this table? And the benefit too is that when you're done, it's really easy to kind of gather these up in the center and use your paper as a funnel to get them into your vessel a lot easier. So anyway, let's get going with the snapdragons. Like I said, this came from our apple blossom snapdragons. It's one of my favorite varieties. So I start these from seed 8 to 10 weeks before our average last frost, and then plant them out once it's warmed up a little bit. And this is known as a main season snapdragon. So it's still blooming. It's still setting new bloom stalks. It'll bloom for most of the season. They perform really well for us. Even through all of our heat, our snapdragons are looking a little bit on the sad side, but I know once the weather cools off, they're just going to take right back off. But this is what a mature seed pod looks like. So where there were flowers, you can see this is a mature one that's all dried and it's open on the ends. This right here is an immature one. So I'm not going to be really getting any seeds from that. But once the ends have opened, check this out. You can just dump all the seeds right out of this pod, and there's so many per pod. And you can break them apart. Like if I bring it over here, there may be a few, there may be some left in there. But what that will do is just create a little more chaff, which is just plant material, just little pieces of that seed pod, which is no big deal. It just adds a little bulk to the mix. Anyway, I mean, it's that easy. I have a lot of snapdragons in the same area, and I do believe, are these a hybrid? I have to look that up. I think they might be. Yeah, I do believe these are a hybrid. So when I plant these seeds, I might get apple blossom or I might get something a little bit different, but that's okay. Anyway, let me continue gathering seeds from this, and then we're gonna put them probably in an envelope because I didn't grab very many stalks today of this one. Here's the pile of Snapdragon seeds. They are so tiny. I would say in this pile there are several thousand, at least a few thousand. There's a little bit of chaff in there as well, and I could spend more time trying to get it out. And there are different screens you can get to kind of help separate that, but it really doesn't make any difference. You just want to make sure to label them, put them in something where they can stay dry. And that's the most important part. So I'm just going to label this here, and then we will get these all put in the envelope. So this is another benefit to separating your seeds on paper. You can do one of these. Oh, I lost a few at the very end there. Most of them made it in the envelope. So Snapdragons are done. So next we'll go after our dill seeds here. I have just a little stand of dill in the vegetable garden, and it's gone to seed. It smells so good. This is what the seed heads look like right here. And I have some that still have green stems. This one's brown. Either way, the seed will come off really easily. And this is super simple, you guys. You just kind of crunch them off the end there gently. Just like that. And I didn't have any other type of dill, so this one will just come up the same next year. So that's perfect. So we'll get all of these seeds removed, put in an envelope, and then the dill will be done. All right, that is what it looks like after one is done. Typically when you buy dill seed, like maybe this could have been a little bit drier, but you can see here how the tail is still kind of, the little branch is still hooked to the seed. That won't make any difference when we plant it, but typically when you see the seed, they don't have those little tails on them. They just look like this right here. Just like this little small round, kind of oblong disc. All right, got a few more to do. So here are the dill seed. I have no idea how many seed are in this pile right now, but you could use this if you have treated your plants organically. Like you could use this as a spice. So you can buy dill seed in the spice aisle at the grocery store. We use it a lot for pickling recipes. I just used it for our dilly beans that we made not long ago. So you could use these for that. Of course, if you wait a little bit longer to where they're maybe a tiny touch more mature, they wouldn't be left with these little stems right here. But like I said, it won't affect anything in terms of planting. So I'm really happy with that. And there's several more of these stalks out in the garden. I might wait until they're a little bit drier to harvest the rest of them. Uh-oh, this envelope isn't gonna work. Try this one here. All right, so the next one I'm gonna do is actually very similar to the dill. It's carrots. So these are Danvers half-long carrot seed heads right here. And see how they come up in clusters just like the dill, and they come apart just like the dill. So that's what I'm gonna do with these, is just kind of gently ease them apart. There are so many carrot seeds here, I can't even believe it. And Danvers half-long carrots are a variety that my parents' garden center has been selling for ages because they're a good variety in our area. They're really tasty and sweet. And the best part is they're a little bit better in heavy soils in terms of staying their shape. Like a traditional carrot shape instead of coming out all wonky like some of them do. So anyway, little tidbit. These have been hanging out in the barn for a while, so they're a little bit on the dusty side as well. My word, a person like for a normal size garden would only need to let one carrot go to seed in order to have your next year's seed. There are so many. That is a pile of carrot seed right there. Look at that. I could set up a shop with this amount of carrot seed. So Danvers half-long carrots, they're usually like 6 to 8 inch carrots. They have a 75-day maturity on them, which means I could technically plant some of these, and I think we would get a fairly decent carrot crop, like a fall crop yet this season, because they can withstand, like the tops can withstand some amount of frost, and the flavor actually improves of the carrot underneath. And of course, they'll continue to kind of keep growing until we get really heavy frost and a lot of colds. So that might be what I do with these, because there's a lot of them. These are going in the jar, or jars, I think, because that's a lot. Maybe I'll put some in an envelope and plant some. Beautiful that is. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put these in here and we'll plant those out. Plant a big old row of carrots. So next up are the poppies, and I think I gathered these. I've got a whole bunch actually right here in this bucket. I probably won't gather them all today, but I think we gathered these from the Royal Wedding, which are a white with a black center. They're really beautiful, but they're seed pods right here, which were on the small side this year. They look a little bit different than they have in the past, but you can see what their shape is. They have this little disc top, and if you cut that top off, you can just pour the seeds out. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And some of them will have a ton of seeds. It kind of depends on the size too. So let's cut this one off. Yeah, look at that. Look at how many seeds are right there. I don't know what is going on with all of these poppy pods right here, because they were all fairly small, and maybe that's just the way the variety is, but it was like a lot of the seeds had already been released from the pods. So I did get a few. These though, you can actually hear them. They're bread seed or rattle poppies. You hear that? Like maracas, right? So check this out. This will be much more satisfying. Let's cut the top off. That's what I want to see. Right there. And I have a whole bunch more of these out there. I had to run out because I thought, oh, these are just kind of disappointing me a little bit. That is really satisfying right there. So that's the bread seed rattle poppy right there. Erin is questioning how many seeds a person actually needs. Why would you question that?
Well, I mean, I get that they're free, but just, you know. Like,
well, you can give them away.
What, will you?
Yes.
You looked down when you said yes.
No, I did not. Bread seed or rattle poppy. But several more of these, Erin. Aren't you happy about me saving seeds? My seed orders will be smaller. Here we go. This just enables me to be able to buy a whole bunch of different varieties, Erin, to try, instead of having to buy all the same old every time. Next up, I have Foxglove right here, and these are the pink gin. I grew them from seed last year. Hold on. Yeah, so these are pink gin. They are open pollinated, and I do have a lot of foxglove in the garden, but they're in very different areas than this one is. So I'm hoping that I can get some of the same flowers. But you can see this is very much like the Snapdragons in that where their flowers were, they have these little seed pods that dry, and then you can just empty them out. I mean, like Erin, one would probably only need one seed pod worth of seed here, but that's not as satisfying as seeing like multiple of these pods opened up and emptied out. So I'm gonna work on this really quick. Now I do start foxgloves inside early, and like this one is a second year bloomer, so I had to wait till it bloomed this year in order to enjoy the flowers. Totally worth it though, because last year they were pretty and that they've created really big mounds of leaves, and they're really soft shell, kind of apricot pink. So we enjoyed the leaves last year, and then it kind of makes it all that more satisfying the next year when they start to bloom. You think to yourself, like you're really happy with yourself that you actually followed through and did that. I'm usually such an instant gratification, like whatever I plant from seed, I want to see the blooms that year, because you're already putting in a lot of work to get the seeds up and going and established in your garden. So these are just a really fun one. Okay, so let me just keep on working on this. We've got several seed pods to open here. I should note that the foxglove and the larkspur I'm gathering from today, like all parts of the plants are poisonous. So either wear gloves or wash your hands really well afterward and keep them away from pets and kids, all that sort of thing. We've got a ton of foxglove seeds here, and I do think we're gonna try the sieve here, see if we can't get the chaff out. These are such a small seed that I think they'll go right through. Yeah. Hopefully we can get a really clean seed here. I wonder how many seeds this is. 1 billion? Okay, so check this out. We were able to get at least that chaff out, and that's pretty clean right there. Oh, that's amazing. So we're gonna put it all in this jar. Oh, I need some smaller jars than this. I'd put them in the envelope, but these are so tiny that I feel like they need to be in something that's a little bit more sealed. So the next one I want to work on is the whitefinch orlaya, which I direct seeded in the cut flower garden this spring. And this is the first time I've ever grown it. It was beautiful. So it came out with these white discs of flowers on kind of a long stem, but it came up in clusters like this. So beautiful. I do believe that it said that you need to do successive seeding, so like seed it every 2 to 3 weeks in order to have continuous harvest, because mine didn't last all too long out in the cut flower garden. So I did pull it. I reseeded some like right out in the garden before I even brought the seeds up here, and I'm putting on a glove because these seeds are a little bit sharp, but I think they're just going to come apart just like the carrots and dill did. Yep. So they just come right off the discs. Boy, these gloves are old. They have no give in them whatsoever. I might just sacrifice the hands for this. Oh, so much better. I always have good intentions to use gloves. Never works out. What I did notice about this one, when I cut it in kind of the middle of the day, it would wilt pretty hard. It would pick back up after a little while, but it's definitely best to cut it in the cool of the morning. I think it reacts a lot better that way, but it does last quite a long time in a vase, which is nice. Beautiful filler flower. About that paper funnel. Ouch. They've got little spines. They're like little thistles. Now watch yourselves. I wonder if I could fit more in there. Okay, so there's the whitefinch orlaya. We've got a whole jar full of it, and I have a whole pile of those plants over there. I don't even know how many more jars worth of seed I have over there. A lot. It might be just worth going along and just putting a whole seed head down in the ground every once in a while and just covering them over with soil. Okay, so we've got just a couple left. Let's move on to the Nigella. These create the most beautiful seed pods. This is what they look like right here. I'm already losing some seed from them. So they come up with these beautiful kind of, are they kind of star-shaped flowers? They're really unique looking. But then when they're all done, they have these beautiful pods. So when they're mature, you can already see, like you can tip them upside down and all the seed come out of the little holes right there. And I'm not sure if any kind of like trying to break, yep, you kind of squeeze them a little bit more comes out. I was sprinkling seeds everywhere on the way up here because not all of the seed pods are pointing straight up in my big pile. I have a huge pile of those sitting over there. So I'm sure I've got Nigella, or Love in a Mist is the common name, seed everywhere. throughout this property, but I seeded these early this spring and they came up beautifully. It took them a while to come up, but I planted chocolate and cream, and my favorite was Delft blue. And like I said, though, I might get just a kind of random mishmash of color from the seed I saved, but the Delft blue was just a soft periwinkle, really gorgeous with kind of like some dark flecking in it. So really pretty. Anyway, let me grab some more of those seed pods and go to town with these. Okay, so I'm going to put these in a jar, and I do intend on filling this jar quite full. So I'll work on that a little bit later. We have one left, one variety of plant, which is the Larkspur. And I seeded the Larkspur at the same time as these Nigella, kind of in the same section. And the orlaya, I've seeded all of those at the same time. I think that was, well, that and the breadseed rattle poppy was the most satisfying, I think, to gather from. Okay, so I've got Larkspur right over here. Let me grab some pods. So these come up, the Larkspur, they look kind of like delphiniums. They come up, well, like foxglove and snapdragons too, like the long panicle of blooms. And so when they're all spent, they have kind of these almost like mini beans. They look like mini beans. And I can actually see the top here where it's starting to open and split. And if you don't get to them in time, they will split and they will fall on the ground. So you do want to make sure you're being mindful of timing on this one, which I noticed some of mine they don't have seeds in them. But you just open them up and little black seeds come out. And for these, I think it recommends that you freeze or refrigerate the seeds for a certain amount of time, like they need a cold period. I think I just planted mine early enough to where they got enough cold, because that's all I did. They went straight from my seed storage container straight outside into the ground when I planted all the rest of my spring flowers out there. And all of these things are in full sun, minus the foxglove. So I have the foxgloves in my flower beds. Anyway, the foxgloves get part of the day sun. So that's the only one that really isn't in a full sun situation. And all of these plants too have really withstood a lot of wind and a lot of heat. So I'm really happy with how they've done. So I'm just going to continue on with these Larkspur and we'll see. That's a lot of seed. We'll see how many I get. Okay, so I've got my Larkspur seeds, some anyway, and again, I will probably go through that whole tub and gather the rest of the seeds, but I want to get them in this jar. Let me get the sticker off real quick. I think it'll look really pretty to have all these jars lined up full of seeds, and I do have some tags inside I'll be labeling them with. And they all stay actually here in the studio. That's where I have all of my seeds, and it's like indoor temperatures in here. So cool and dry. I think keeping them dry is the most important part. And again, you can gather seeds off of anything you want, really. Just keeping in mind that cross-pollination may be an issue. So if there is anything that you want specifically, a specific variety, you can repurchase those seeds and grow those. But you can go ahead, like next year with my Larkspur. I don't know exactly what colors I'm going to get from these seeds, but I'll sow them out there and enjoy whatever comes up. And then if there is a specific variety, I can go ahead and plant that right alongside these, and I will get that color for next year. So it's just something you have to keep in mind if you're wanting something specific. But I'm really happy with all of these. So again, I've got my Larkspur, my orlaya. These are my Snapdragons. I gotta get these all labeled. What were these? Nigella. These were the Nigella. And then we've got carrots here. We've got a nice amount of dill. The wedding party poppy, apple blossom snapdragon, and our breadseed or rattle poppy. I think that's a pretty good haul from today, and then I will work on those as I have time. So anyway, I hope this video is helpful, just seeing what some of these things look like and at what stage you can gather from. It's just a matter of keeping an eye on things so that, you know, the seed pods don't break open and release the seed, because at that point it's kind of impossible to be able to pick them up off of the ground. They really blend in well. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you are having a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.